The Transylvania Stakes is a Grade 3. It's the 8th race on the Friday card at Keeneland, and it's running a mile and a 16th on the turf for 3-year-olds. And we've got a big field here, and this is a very good betting race, I would say. You take a look at here, and some of these we've seen on the Derby Trail, most notably Laganos. We've seen on dirt as well as turf, and getting back to what probably is a preferred surface. Tennessee and Neat both scratched out of the Jeff Ruby and to run here, and I think Tennessee looms a big threat here. First World War we've seen down at Gulfstream, running on turf as well as dirt, and has been pretty effective in both. Musical Act is the Godolphin Charlie Appleby import. Always have to pay attention when he comes into town. We've got Can Group, who's getting back on turf after a really solid effort in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile turf. Full Nelson, who's been running over at Tampa with some good success. Cugino, Shug McGahee, who's coming from Gulfstream. And then we have a couple of also eligible. So this is a big field. I think it offers some value here. So let's take a look at them. We'll go one at a time. There is no confirmed front runner in this race, I should point out. But I think Neat is the most logical to get on the lead. That's the way he's been running generally. He's a horse that I think probably the presence of all that other speed is likely going to be a little too much for him. He's not a bad horse, but I think the step up in class will probably eat him up, and also the race shape. So Neat's a toss to me. Now, First World War is a horse that a lot of people like, and I understand it. He's demonstrated some pretty good turn of foot on turf as well as dirt, and he did get a win last time on turf. But that race really hasn't come back very good. Noted has been nowhere in all his starts, really, and I just don't think that was really that powerful a race. More importantly, you look at First World War, and I don't see the progression that you want to see. I think this horse is kind of plateauing as far as effort goes and as far as improvement. And moving up in class, moving up into a big field like this, that's not the kind of horse I really want. So I think the price is going to be prohibitive. It'll be a little too short. So consequently, I'm going to toss. Musical Act is the Charlie Appleby import. Last race at Dubai, I thought demonstrated a good amount of grit, staying up at the front. Wasn't enough to get to the winner, who I think was Legend of Time, I think was the name, but it was a pretty good horse. But Musical Act kept on well and showed a lot of stamina as well as grit, I thought. And that should bode well in here, given the other early pace presence. And may have a little bit of a class edge. When this horse was running it too, he carried as high as 137 pounds overseas. So obviously they thought some pretty well of this one. The weights in Dubai were lighter, but they were all carrying the same, I believe. So I just look at that back class, and this tells me that this horse probably has something. I'd like to see William Buick aboard, and it's a little bit of a surprise, or that he's not on this horse. If he was, you'd be really confident, because that's Charlie Appleby's A rider. Nonetheless, I think Musical Act looms very logical here and is my primary win candidate. Full Nelson hasn't been doing anything wrong this year at Tampa, has been progressing steadily, class rating raising, increasing with the race rating. Always want to see that. My one reservation is that Columbia last time was a pretty good field, and Full Nelson did draw off pretty well. You did have some disappointing efforts from Tok Tok as well as Noted that perhaps improved the cause. But the thing that bothered me more than anything is while Full Nelson drew off, didn't have that like full run acceleration down the stretch. Looked to be slowing down a little bit, and I don't think he was necessarily geared down. So that's a little bit of a concern to me. Still, I think this horse is coming to this race in good form, and I think with the running style being up near the leaders looms one logically to consider. Tennessee, I really like in this race, has the same pattern as Full Nelson, but a little bit better. The class rating improving with the race rating. The distance should meet this one right between the eyes. You have to consider the fact that this one scratched out of the Jeff Ruby to run here. Probably didn't want to deal with endlessly. So this would be considered a softer spot. I think we'll be just off the leaders and will be in excellent position. I like Tennessee very much as a win candidate here. Hopefully the presence of Musical Act will give us a little bit of a price. Lord Bullingdon and Depiction. Really, I don't think either one of them is good enough, particularly Lord Bullingdon coming from the West Coast. That's always a red flag where he wasn't running against very much there, and I don't like him here. Depiction is probably a little sexy just because he's trained by Cherie DeVoe, but if you really look back at this horse's record, I don't know that he fits here necessarily. I think he'd have to take a really big step forward. However, he probably is likely to run a decent race. If you want to put him underneath at a price, I could certainly understand it. But to me, I've got better value with others, so I'll let him go. Cugino has been running pretty well at Gulfstream. Had a pretty good second last time, and if he can get away, he's lost to the same horse, I think Arumar, I believe was the name, twice in a row. Maybe that bodes well. The speed figures fit here. The only thing to me is sometimes Gulfstream turf doesn't necessarily translate, particularly when you get to the northern tracks where the turf is a little deeper. That's really my only concern. But obviously, Shug McGahee knows what he's doing. This one's coming in pretty fresh, and I think one fits here class-wise. I'm just not quite as confident as I am with Musical Act or Tennessee, but certainly Looms one to use underneath for the exotics. Royal Majesty ran in the same race as Cugino last time and really just didn't have any pace to run to. That was really the issue. I didn't think ran badly at all, but is a deep closer and needs some turn of foot early. And you're probably going to get it here. There's a lot of early pace. So coming off the bench for Bill Mott, I think that it's logical that this one will have the race shape to give for the best possible effort. Not sure that he's good enough to win, but getting underneath Bill Mott at value is always a cool thing. So I think you use this one underneath. Then we come to the two closers. Guy Named Joe and Can Group. Of the two, I think Can Group looms very logical in this spot. If he can come back and build off of his Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf effort, where as a 2-year-old he displayed some really nice form on turf and grew progressively, getting back after a last dirt start that wasn't so hot. I think that could translate into a big race. I like Can Group a lot here. Guy Named Joe will have everything. Have a situation favorable, but I don't think he's necessarily good enough. I would take him underneath. I don't see where he's ready to take that big move forward to take this race down. So, if we look at our wagering strategy, I'm hoping Musical Act will take enough money that we get value on Tennessee, and that's who I really like at a price. I think Tennessee and Musical Act are the two primary win candidates, but Can Group as well. I think those three, it's one of those three that should loom as victorious here. I think we're going to get better prices with Tennessee and Can Group, but we'll go across the board with Tennessee. Then we'll do a key exacta box, 8 on top with 5 and 10, and then we're going to box 5 and 8. That's the one I feel the most confident about. If you want to take it out to 8-5, 5-8-10, wouldn't blame you, and then you double up. Whatever the scenario is, if we get two of those three home, 1-2. Then for trifecta, I'm going to use Musical Act on top with 5, 10, and 11, with 2, 5, 10, 11, and 13. We'll take all the other runners that should be coming underneath, who likely aren't quite good enough to take this one down. If you want to upgrade Cugino, who actually, I'm sorry I left him out, I would put him in that trifecta as well, in the third spot. So put 12 and 3 in third. So you get 2, 5, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Big trifecta. Do it at 50 cents. I'm not overly confident about it. But if you want to go that way, that's what I would try to do. And hopefully you can get a late runner at a price. But to me, I really like Tennessee for the value. But Musical Act and Can Group loom large as well, and probably Musical Act's race to lose.